AI is here to stay, but humans are still also here to stay. And so I would love to see a world where the promise of AI agents is realized and like AI optimism as well is proven to be not crazy. Concretely, where like agents are reliable enough to work safely alongside us, and it's not hype or novelty, but it's an actual tool that elevates human consciousness.
Hi, I'm Rachel Chalmers, and this is Generationship, the podcast at the intersection of infrastructure and artificial intelligence. We are the generation that's exploring generative AI. We are a finite group of people with a finite set of resources, and we have to share this infrastructure. We have to find fair and ethical ways to do that. The first generation ship has already set sail. It's the planet Earth, and you and I are the crew. This show is brought to you by Heavybit, the leading investor in developer-first startups. To learn more about Heavybit, visit heavybit.com. Today, I am so pleased to have Katie Hallett on the show. Katie's part of the founding team at Lightpanda, along with Francis and Pierre. They built Blueboard, an e-commerce analytics company, later acquired by Channel Advisor. Their experience developing its scraping infrastructure and navigating the limitations of Chrome headless inspired their vision to redesign a web browser for the AI era. Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
But Katie, I love my web browser. Chrome and I have been together for half my life. Please don't pry my web browser from my cold dead hands. Why build one for machines?
Yeah, so no stress there. We are not taking Chrome away from you.
Thank God.
Chrome is probably here to stay for as long as we're still using web browsers to interface with the web as humans. Like there's a lot of new projects popping up for consumer-facing browsers, which are built kind of largely on the Chromium code base. So like Perplexity's Comet project, Deer from Arc. But what Lightpanda is building is truly adjacent to that. We're building something from first principles for machines that don't need to see a web browser, so they don't care about how much it looks great and how user-friendly it is.
What kinds of jobs do these scrapers, these headless browsers do? What were the problems you were running into at Blueboard?
Yeah, so Blueboard was a B2B SaaS company in the e-commerce analytics space. So we were scraping millions of product pages, grabbing data like the price, the stock availability, consumer reviews at scale so that consumer brands could get insights on their distribution, essentially. So that was a very, I guess you could call it, traditional data extraction scraping use case, where simply put, using a browser that's designed for humans is just a super heavy way to go around that. It's a hack, basically. So the problems that we had at scale were just, it's like you start running that at scale, it's expensive, it breaks, you need like a super complicated infrastructure to host it all. It's just not fit for purpose, to put it simply, I suppose.
Can't you just run Firefox headless and then use Puppeteer or Playwright?
You can, yeah. That's exactly what people do. So, I mean, there's slightly different use cases between headless Chrome and headless Firefox. Headless Firefox is more generally used on the testing front, but Playwright and Puppeteer to programmatically control a web browser in headless mode is the de facto solution right now, which everyone is using. It's what we were doing 10 years ago, and it's what every browser infra company building agents is relying on today. And we built Lightpanda with the Chrome DevTools protocol API, which means that same like Playwright script that you would send to Firefox or Chrome in headless mode, you can just plug and play that, switch it up to Lightpanda, and it will execute on Lightpanda the same way.
So what's in Lightpanda? Is it like a parser? It's just interpreting the HTML?
Yeah, so Lightpanda it's a full web browser with one big difference right now, which is that we don't do any of the graphical composition. So we still have a JavaScript engine, which is V8. We have an HTML5 parser from the NetSurf project that we're reusing, and a couple of other C libraries. But we're doing full JavaScript execution, which essentially you can kind of see us as a layer in between like a fully fledged web browser and a basic HTTP request. So like a kind of curl with JavaScript execution, if you like. But you have access to the full living DOM tree, and it is a full web browser just without the graphical elements, meaning something like taking a screenshot would be not possible in Lightpanda.
So I've got my Puppeteer scripts. I can fire them into Lightpanda just like I was firing them into headless Chrome. What's the saving? Like, how much faster is it? What's the smaller footprint that I get from Lightpanda?
Yeah, so firstly, it's before you even get to the execution, it starts up about 30 times faster than Chrome, which in itself opens up loads of possibilities when you're running at scale, like serverless use cases. And then at execution, it's about 10 times faster than headless Chrome, while using somewhere between, depending on the machine, like 5 and 10 times less memory as well. So the throughput of all of that is somewhere around 100 times more efficiency, which starts to get really impactful when you're doing things at scale.
What kinds of things are your users scraping? What are they pulling off the web using Lightpanda?
Yeah, so I mean, Lightpanda is like a super horizontal project, and our goal is to be really the layer that sits underneath the entire web automation stack and is like to machines literally what Chrome is to humans. So that's everything from like your individual developer who has some really niche use case on one specific website, right up to the AI labs who need to index the whole web for fine tuning and training, and then everyone in between who has like AI agents that they're building, or even traditional web scraping use cases in the e-commerce space, like our previous company.
Yeah, I really need an agent to just download all of my tax file information and send it to my accountant. Could you get on that?
I'm sure that's something we're going to be doing for you in the future, whether you know it or not.
Fantastic. Where did the name come from? I love it.
Yeah, so Lightpanda was there was the classic ideation session that happens at the beginning of a project. We chose it for a few reasons, some of them quite pragmatic, like domain name things, but also like there's a bit of a history with browsers and animals as mascots. Like the Firefox is the red panda, I believe.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we're a lighter panda that's surfing the web.
Totally makes sense. So it's written in Zig, which is a new one on me. What is Zig and why is it cool?
Yeah, so Zig is a pretty new, relatively new system programming language. At the time we were starting Lightpanda, so 3 years ago, it was really pretty unknown. Now there's a handful of pretty well-known projects. So it's kind of getting more of a reputation in the developer community. And I mean, for what we're doing, building a web browser, there wasn't a ton of choice for programming languages. We needed something which was a low-level system programming language. So the choices were essentially C, C++, Rust, or Zig. And Zig has, for our specific use case, a lot of really cool features. So firstly, like C, C++, less modern languages. So Rust and Zig offer a lot more safety features, which is super important for a project like ours. So that kind of ruled out C and C++. And then Zig is just in terms of the DNA of our project, which is all about the speed and performance, has this comp time feature, which versus the other 3 languages we could have chosen from is essentially like it opens up the possibility to do meta programming, i.e. like code generated by code, which just makes the whole architecture of the project so much more efficient. It can bind with all the C libraries like completely effortlessly that we're using, say like V8, NetSurf libraries, etc. And it's simpler than Rust, which was more of a personal preference. Like Rust could have been a totally great language to do this project in as well.
You've sold me. I'm a Zig fancier now.
It sounds cool, right?
Do you use any AI tools in your own workflow?
Yeah, so I'm the only non-developer in Lightpanda. So I actually use AI a lot in my kind of ideation processes for creating content and even just thinking through like how to approach a problem. I use a lot of deep research in market sizing and prospection and things like that, kind of like a creative partner. I've never been great at going from 0 to 1 without another person to bounce ideas off. So I would say that's probably my primary use case right now. In terms of all of our go-to-market and outbound, we're in like hyper-personalized outreach mode. So I'm not using it yet on the SDR side, but I'm interested. And I've had some great conversations with people that are doing that because my whole background has been in, like go-to-market and customer success. So it's interesting seeing how that whole sector is moving right now.
Do you worry that LLMs are going to replace engineers?
I mean, I don't. I think engineers have been the first to adopt, and that's been a trend on other things. And so that we're seeing how this is playing out in the way their roles are transforming first. And so I think their roles are definitely going to change and different types of people will probably flourish. And so I think it's going to require if you were a developer now versus 10, 15 years ago, I definitely think the approach is different, but I fundamentally am optimistic about the outlook for, I think more code means ultimately more developers.
More customers for Lightpanda. When you say you think different people will flourish, I want to dig on that a little bit. What kinds of people do you think will thrive in an AI-enabled world?
Well, I mean, I think it requires a certain openness of thought. So embracing change and, accepting that once where your role as a developer, to take that example, was 9 till 5 writing lines of code. Now instead you're orchestrating code gen agents and then you're reviewing their code. So I think embracing that change is not necessarily something which, and I obviously that's a bit of a broad brush generalization. I mean, there's a lot more nuance than that. But I think if you're willing to embrace the promise that AI can actually elevate your profession, then I think that will enable you to flourish as a kind of broad generalization.
Yeah, that makes sense. This one's a little selfish because I've got a couple of college kids in the house. What advice would you give to college graduates based on what you've learned from working with AI the last couple of years?
Gosh, yeah, I love this question. And I actually found it really thought-provoking because I have 2 kids as well who are far from being college graduates. And I candidly don't feel that well placed to dish out advice. I asked a couple of other people as well their thoughts on this. And I think it's a really tough time for people to be graduating college. I really don't envy. I mean, it was hard in different ways for us, I think. But I suppose what I kind of came down to was a couple of things. Like on the engineering side, choose something and specialize in it and get really good at your thing, which is, I guess, something which you could argue is true in a lot of walks of life anyway. And then otherwise, there are some things that are going to hold true regardless of the cultural era that we're in, right? Like AI is here to stay, but humans are still also here to stay. And so
we hope.
Surround yourself by the kinds of people that you want to be like, right? Like you're the sum of the people who you spend the most time with. And I think the hardest thing is getting into that first job out of college. So just relentlessly pursue that. Like I remember being there and sending hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of outbound messages. And so I still think that looks the same, whether you're using different tools. And once you're in there, once you start building your network, I think that the mindset still is the most important thing.
Yeah, LinkedIn turned out to be an incredibly powerful tool for me. I just at one point started putting everyone I met into my LinkedIn network, and that's been one of my better investments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Katie, what are some of your favorite sources for learning about AI?
So I tried a lot of the different kind of daily digests. My favorite one that I've found so far is the newsletter from TLDR. They have an AI one specifically.
Yeah, I love that one.
And I've just found that it's the best summary. It always has everything, and I like the way that they write. That's probably my primary source for kind of daily news. And then I think it's good to honestly keep your sources pretty limited. And then I obviously being in San Francisco, I'm attending all like the meetups and stuff and getting other people's input, but you can quickly fatigue from it all. So I would recommend finding the one source and then not using too much else.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable. Like for everyone saying San Francisco is over, if you're on any of the events list, there's like a dozen Gen AI specific events every night here in the city. It's exhausting. The youth, they have so much energy. All right. If everything goes exactly the way you'd like it to for the next 5 years, I'm making you God Emperor of the galaxy. You get to determine how things pan out. What does the future look like?
I would love, I'm going to keep this fairly micro because obviously I could get very idealistic if we go too macro, but
people do.
I'd love world peace, but hey.
Yeah.
I would love to see a world where the promise of AI agents is realized and like AI optimism as well is proven to be not crazy. So concretely where like agents are reliable enough to work safely alongside us and it's not hype or novelty, but it's an actual tool that elevates human consciousness. And I'd love for you to have a browser teammate that's running on Lightpanda.
That's doing my taxes for me.
Right.
Now I'm giving you your own starship. It doesn't travel faster than light, sorry, so it's going to take more than one human generation to get to Alpha Centauri. What are you going to name your ship to the stars?
I'm going to call it Ziggy Stardust.
Oh, that's fantastic. Bowie reference. That's the first time we've had that one.
It's kind of become our nominal mascot for Lightpanda because I have a little David Bowie panda now. And Zig's logo is the lightning bolt. So it's a nice metaphor. So for our project, like a lot of people have said to us, countless now, that we're insane for trying to build a web browser from scratch.
A lot insane. Big Bowie fan?
Huge Bowie fan.
He was so far ahead of his time.
Right. And I would love for him to be there when my kids see Lightpanda ruling the world generations from now.
Yeah, bring back Bowie. That's a strong platform. Katie, it's been wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
That's all we have time for today. If you're interested in being a guest or if you know someone awesome I should interview, hook up with us online. We're available where all fine social medias are sold. This show is brought to you by Heavybit, the leading investor in developer-first startups. To learn more about Heavybit, visit heavybit.com.